Hey, welcome YouTube. Okay, in this video, I'm gonna go through maybe the top 7 or 8 questions that CEOs could be asking themselves, okay? So this is gonna be a sort of a thoughtful video. We'll go through things like, what's your vision? Which I'm sure you've heard that question a million times, but I'll go into some other questions as well. These are things that you could maybe contemplate deeper and see how you can get a little bit more leverage in your business. Okay, so before we jump in, just want to introduce myself. If you're new to these videos, my name is Luke Peters. I started my business in the garage about 25 years ago, grew it with the family for 20 years, and was able to fortunately sell to private equity for a mid 8-figure deal in 2021. So listen, I've been there at the small stages, starting out with no money, and the middle stages and the larger stages as my company grew with a global supply chain, national footprint, multi-channel sales setup where we're selling into the big retailers, but also direct to consumer. So I feel very fortunate to have those experiences where I can relate to many, many levels of CEOs and businesses. So let's get into these questions. Okay, so if you contemplate these and think deeper, we have year-end coming up, right? So you're probably hopefully going through some year-end planning. So these can be really valuable. So the first one is, what's your vision of the company? Okay, that's a question you probably hopefully already have, but how effectively are you communicating that to your employees? If you've ever surveyed your company, I guarantee you, if one of the questions is, how good is the company communication? Okay, I guarantee you, like if you ask 20, 30 questions, that one will be on the lower end, okay? That's just, employees want more information. Okay, they want really to know everything going on at the company, or as much as you can share. I think we have, the vision set as CEOs, right? But the challenge is, how well are we communicating it? What can we do better? Okay, the next one, how are you fostering innovation in your organization? Okay, so if you're a new company, you're probably innovating a ton, right? But let's say you're 5 years in, 6 years in, 8 years in. Sometimes that innovation comes up in plateaus because you're dealing with life's challenges. You have employee situations, or you need to hire, or you're having a challenge in sales or marketing, right? And innovation takes a hit. And who's the chief innovation officer? That's you probably, right? That's almost always the CEO. So you started because you loved product, or you're making something, software, physical product, and then you get into it. Now you're running a business. You don't have as much time for that, and that innovation drops off. So how do you get more time back for innovation? Do you understand your sales margins? Okay, most people, yeah, I understand my sales margins. Okay, do you understand your sales margins at the transaction level, okay, for all of your transactions? Can you literally pull out, and then the sum of those transactions would make up, the top half of the P&L? Would that really add up to your contribution margin, right? And most people can't say yes to that. Okay, this is a very challenging one. Okay, even Fortune 500 companies can't say yes to this. Okay, if you think of, I'm talking all the way down that transaction, right? All of your allowances, everything else is added in, all your shipping, everything at the transaction level. If you're maybe a software service, it could be a lot easier. Okay, but when you're selling a physical product, especially if you have a larger supply chain and maybe a larger footprint, this can be very, very difficult. But it's so important because so many companies are giving away margin. They're losing money on 20% of their sales, or they're break even on 20% of their sales, or some customers are way worse than maybe even the P&L goes. So it's like different levels, right? It's, what are your overall margins, your contribution margin, okay? What is your contribution margin by, say, product category? And another one is, what's your contribution margin by customer? Okay, and a lot of people say they have it, but is it accurate? Okay, I challenge you on that, because a lot of times this stuff is not accurate. Even if you have good accounting systems, some of the costs are maybe put in further down into the P&L. So that's hard to get to. Even there, okay, you have accurate margins at the customer level. Now, let's take that customer out and go through every transaction. Can you get accurate margins on every one of those transactions? Okay, this is sort of an accounting nightmare, but it's so important, okay, for your profitability, your margins, your sophistication as an organization, okay, especially later on if you're going to deal with investors. And so it's an important accounting goal, finance goal for you to have. Next one is, do you have weekly one-on-one with your reports? Okay, usually yes. But how is the meeting run? Like, do you have an agenda? Is your report bringing you the agenda? When you step into the new meeting, are you stepping off from last week's meeting? I mean, is there flow going through your meetings, right? Do you have a specific plan? Are you working with OKRs or EOS or scaling up or something like that? how you run your meeting, okay, your communication style, your, level of accountability that you demand of your reports is going to flow through the rest of the company. So think about that, right? It's so important, if you're kind of lackadaisical on those meetings, which, look, I was guilty of that early on, because I just thought I needed to know everything. And later on, I learned it's like, listen, I wasn't communicating enough. It's okay to explain things a couple times and get your team to buy in and sort of, explain the why. And then the team really can have context and latch onto that. Okay. So that's a key, for leadership, it starts right there with your one-on-ones. Okay. What potential blind spots do you have in your leadership approach, right? We all know, we need to improve, but where? Like, how do we improve as leaders? Are you taking active steps to improve as a leader? Is there anything that you can, do you have goals for yourself, personal goals for yourself as a leader to improve? So I think this is a great question to ask at your end. All it takes is just improve on one thing, every month or every year. You don't have to have a list of 20 things, but if you're not sure, start with communication. Run a survey through your company. See what the results are. If you score really high marks, trust me, you're like in rare ground. Okay. It's like most companies are not going to be there. And it's not because the company is failing. Okay. It's really because employees, they really want that. Okay. There's sort of a mismatch. Like they desire to be more integrated into the company, what you're doing. And so that's, I think, where the divide is. Okay. Not necessarily that you're purposely, withholding information or not wanting to communicate things. Another thing, do you have a specific exit plan that you're working towards? This is a great question because many people will say, well, I'm not planning to exit. But what's like sort of the code for that? The code is, I don't know how to prepare for an exit. The code is, I'm scared that I may not even be around in a year or two, let alone exit, right? So that's usually, like if you could exit with a great exit, I'm telling you, like 90%, like you should all take it, or at least, look at that, unless you're passing this on to your family. But I think being prepared for an exit, whether you choose to exit or not, why not be prepared? What do you have to lose, right? So what you're going to do is you're going to improve your margins. You're going to improve sort of your sales trajectory. You're going to reduce your customer concentration. You're going to improve your accounting systems and reporting, on and on and on. Those are all great things. Like your company is just going to be better, okay? And you decide not to sell. So that's fine. But it was a great exercise. So I think this is a really, really good question. Okay, how about another one is, so what specific measurable activities are you implementing here at year end? Like how good is your year end planning? What system are you using? Does it integrate through the whole company? Okay, is your year-end planning where you come up with ideas and then you pass it down to your leadership team and it stops there? Is it your leadership team gets in a room and you all come up with ideas, but it stops there? Look, in a perfect world, you're going to have OKRs or goals all the way through your team. Everybody at the company will have 2 to 3 that they're working on. And everybody at the company will report up to their team leader. That's in a perfect world. And that's hard to do, but it's worth doing, right? And, we're making this video here sort of, in the fall. So this is the time to be thinking about those things. This year-end planning, it's got to be done, say, in November, right? You can't drag this into next year. So this is the time to get your team really integrated into these ideas. And then, finally, ask yourself, like, are you enjoying what you're doing? Okay. Usually it's like, we're talking about CEO work-life balance, right? The questions are, if you started the business again, okay, what activities would you not be doing? If you started the business again, what, different path might you take, right? You got all kinds of excess inventory. Maybe you'd be, you have your own warehouse. Maybe it's like, listen, I would have a 3PL and I would limit the number of SKUs. Or, I would keep this part of my business simpler, or I would, launch with this type of category because the margins are better. So this is a great question to ask, okay? Because again, remember back up to the question about innovation. Okay, this is where you can kind of drive some innovative ideas. If you did it all over again, now you have so much more knowledge and context about, the whole business world and your business. Maybe you would do it differently. And why not, create a little offshoot in 2025, right? Why not create that little kernel that could grow up into something? That's how new business ideas are formed. And sometimes it doesn't have to be, you don't have to completely plunge in. Sometimes you can have little experiments in your company. Those little weeds can turn into, beautiful fruit trees. So that's a great question. I love that one. There's a lot more, but I thought these were provoking questions in good timing, I think, here coming up in the fall. So listen, I wish you all the success on your year-end planning. Thanks for watching the video. Please like and subscribe. It really, really helps me as I'm starting out this YouTube channel, and we'll see you on the next video.